Hi, welcome back. In this series, I'm making a Canberra inspired dress for a client. In the last part, I showed you how I made the corset and the petticoat, which is the dress lining. In this part, I'm going to be making the dress layer that goes over the top. The first thing I'm going to do is just measure around the skirt at various heights so I know how full my overskirt needs to be. I want it to be quite tight over this, so it's going to squish it down a little bit. So at the hem, I'm just squishing it in a little bit. So at the hem, I need it to be 40 inches per half. Then at 10 inches below the waist, I need it to be 31 per half. And at 5 inches below the waist, I'll just measure over this and squish it. It's about 24 inches or 48 all the way around. So I can now use the measurements that I've taken from over the top of the petticoat to make my skirt pattern. So at 5 inches below the waist, my skirt needs to be 24 inches per half or 48 inches all the way around. So when I divide that by the 8 panels of the skirt, each panel needs to be 6 inches wide, 5 inches below the waist. And then at 10 inches below the waist, each panel needs to be 7.75 inches. And then at the 17 inches mark, where the hem is, each panel needs to be 10 inches wide. And I know I need to cut my skirt length to 19 inches down from the waist to give me enough to hem. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that out on each pattern piece. And then I'm going to cut it just from some scrap fabric I've got and pin it on and see how it looks over the skirt. So each one's going to, from the waist, I'll cut, if you imagine that's the waist on one of my pattern pieces. So I'm going to curve it out and then measure down. So at the 5 inch mark, I'll make sure that's 6 inches across. At the 10 inch mark, I'll make sure that's 7.75. And then at the 17 inches down from the waist, I'll make sure it's 10 inches across. And then I'll add my seam allowances as necessary. Okay, I've cut my pattern, I've just cut half of it, and I've pinned them together and pinned them onto the corset just to see how they're sitting. And you can see it's sitting really nicely at the front. So this will be my centre front fold. I've cut it slightly less curved here at the front because I don't want it to have the full sort of puffy curve straight off the waist front here. Then I've cut it a lot more curved at the side seam here, and that's giving us a really lovely shape. The length looks really good too. And then if I turn it round, I've cut the extra length at the back, which will be for putting the zip in. And when I pull that round, it's pulling the petticoat in nicely so the fabric's all filled out. I just need to take a tiny bit off the curve here at the side back because that's just not filling out quite as much as the side seams are. I'm happy with that curve on the side, but yeah, I just want a touch less on the back. It's only a tiny bit, but yeah, I just need to lose that tiny bit of curve in there. So I'm going to take this apart, make that adjustment, and then I'm going to tack these onto the dress pattern, the corset parts of the dress pattern, and then I can use them as a whole piece to cut the fabrics. So I want it to be smooth like this with no fabric overlaps at the bottom because this is the layer that I'm going to be attaching the tulle drapes on, which are going to be our gang feathers. So this is how all my finished dress pattern pieces look now. I've tacked the skirt pattern onto the corset pattern. So that's the side front, the centre front. So you can sort of see how they join. So that's my centre front and side front. The side back, you can see how much more curve I've got over the hip on that side seam for that nice curve. So then if I move these round a bit, sorry, I haven't got a good camera set up for filming from above yet. At some point I will, my studio needs a good revamp actually. At some point when I do that, I'm going to set up better for filming because I'm sort of squished behind a desk, between the desk and the wall for this, and it's really awkward. So that's, yeah, so my side back, and then that's my back, and that's the centre back seam there. So you can see I've just taken off a tiny bit of the curve there just to smooth it out a bit. So that's my 4 dress panels ready to cut out. So next I'm going to cut them out in my lining fabric and stitch that and put it onto the corset. Just pin it on over the corset just to check that I'm happy with it. I've made up my dress lining and I've just pinned it over the corset and petticoat to check it. The back fits really well. It's fitting really snugly over that petticoat and it's a really nice shape, and I'm really happy with this lovely shape at the sides. But at the front, it's just lifting here, and I think it's because I cut this too flat. I should have cut more curve in this front seam to allow for the curve of the petticoat. I thought it would hold the petticoat down, but it's not. It's the petticoat's pushing this up. So I'm just going to unpick this seam a little bit and see if I've got enough there just to release it to get this to sit flat. Okay, so now I've unpicked these parts, I can see how much I need to add here, and I can see how much I just need to take out of this centre front panel just here as well. So I'm going to recut my pattern, and then I'm just going to recut the front and side front of this lining, and then I can cut the cotton for my outside layer. So after a few different attempts and trying to get rid of this, the only way I can do this is either to put a dart in the front, which I don't really want to do, or put in a centre front seam so I can get this curve over the skirt at the front, which I also don't really want to do because I don't really want to have a seam here. So I don't know what to do. I'm not sure which is the best option. I'm thinking maybe the dart, because then I can keep it smooth here. Yeah, this is going to have the tulle for the gang feathers over it. So I'm thinking maybe if I can make the dart around there, I can put that in and then have it hidden by the tulle. I think that's going to look better than having a centre front seam running all the way up there. So, or I could put a seam at the waist and do this as 2 pieces. So cut the front on the fold, cut the 2 pieces of skirt, and then just seam this panel at the waist. That would work as well. I'm quite happy with the rest of the shape here though, so I think what I'm going to do is go with a dart and stitch that dart in and hide it underneath the tulle. Okay, so I've recut the front and side front of the lining to test the new pattern, and putting the dart in has worked really well. We've got a lovely shape going on here. I've just got to remove a tiny bit of the curve here and just a tiny bit on the hip there as well. And then I think my pattern is good. So I'm just going to make these minor adjustments and repress this. And then I can cut out my cotton layer, which will be the outside layer of this dress. So the outside layer of my dress is made, and I've pressed all the seams open. And next I need to airbrush the blue onto the top of it. So I've just put a big bin bag over one of my old dress forms, and I've pinned this on kind of as smoothly as I can. I'll move it a little bit with my hands as I airbrush it, but I just need to do it blue down to the waist and then just fading slightly down onto the skirt. A lot of it's going to be hidden by flowers, but we need that sort of sky blue colour at the top of the bodice, and then white where the tulle's going to go for the feathers. Then I've also got a spare bit of fabric that I'm going to use firstly to test my colour on, but also I need to cover the boning that's going to make the big straps that the flowers attach to, and that needs to be blue as well, so I'm going to airbrush this piece of cotton as well. So here is the dress back inside. Now it's dried and I've pressed it. It is a little bit uneven on the blue, but because it's the sky, I kind of like that because it's a little bit of a cloud effect. So that's the front. And that's the back. So my client has tried it on, and I've just put some pins in where I need to put the zip in. So that's the last job I need to do before I start working on the gang feathers, which are going to be made of tulle on the skirt. So I'm going to pop the zip in, and I will be back in the next video to show you how I add the embellishments to the skirt. Thanks for watching. See you soon.